But before we dive into the finance, the budgeting and everything, one would love to understand what is climate financing and why is it that important that it needs to be given focus? Yeah.
I think climate financing must be discussed in the context of climate change. Climate change, which is actually the erratic changes in weather patterns that that presents in terms of persistent drought, and the drought that leads, of course, to crop failure, to lack of water, and causes, of course, famine and of course, economic really hardships. But also, and that's largely takes place, the drought takes place largely in the global south. In the global north, you have hurricanes, you have the melting of glaciers, and of course, rising of the sea levels, where we've seen some places, and the threat of being submerged, or hurricanes destroying whole cities. And so climate financing is essentially a response to climate change. How do we deal with it? So, but we've realized that policymakers have realized that environment and natural resources always take very, very little attention from policymakers, from governments. If you look at the budget, for example, in the Ugandan budget, the environment and natural resources, the Ministry of Water and Environment, it takes a very little percentage of the national budget, and yet Uganda is a nature-based economy. Majority of Ugandans are dependent on the environment and natural resources, especially the agricultural sector, which employs almost over 80% of our population in subsistence farming, and yet it takes a very small percentage of our of budget financing, and therefore, because it is underfinanced, we have continued to see a lot of changes, a lot of environmental degradation in that sector. So climate financing now is the whole question is how you needed to change the budget architecture and put more money where it matters most. If you overlook the environment and natural resources, if you overlook climate change, it could wash away all the economic achievements that have been registered over time. So basically climate financing, we are talking about increased financing to deal with climate change, adaptability, and mitigation measures.
Okay, when you talk about climate change financing, it's kind of broad. Where exactly do we need to put the money? Yes.
Now, okay, putting the money, for example, over time, as I've said, the population has been expanding. The land acreage is not expanding. But also in a country like ours, Uganda, and many of the sub-Saharan African countries, technology has not advanced in terms of agriculture. The farming systems have remained subsistent, and as such, most of the land has been degraded, and with the farming pressure need, we have degraded it and can no longer produce enough food because of fertility loss, because of soil erosion, because of burning, those bad farming systems. And so because most of the land has been degraded, there have been population and no longer can feed and produce food to feed the people. Most people now have moved to attack the wetlands, the swamps, which actually in the short run, of course, produce a lot of food, but because they have also not brought better farming systems afterwards, of course, they also start producing the productivity will reduce. But what has happened in the wetlands is destruction of the granaries for water, because the wetlands play an important role in one, checking the runoff, the speed at which water runs from the highlands to the lakes, to oceans, but also cleaning that water, that when actually it runs into the lake, which lake water we are drinking, take the case of Lake Victoria, Chinawataka, and other areas have been degraded, and now water runs directly from the highlands to the lake with soil and silting the lake and destroying the aquatic life, fishing life destroyed because of that. But we've also seen the waste that would actually ordinarily be pushed into water, into the wetlands. Then the water is filtered and enters the lake when it is clean water. Now the waste is just sent in directly, and when it reaches there, it is poisonous and kills the aquatic life, and of course especially the fish, which affects our fishing industry. So the financing that we are talking about is actually restoring, for example, those degraded wetlands, including the river systems destroyed, the lakes destroyed. Restoring them would involve actually to relocate people that had attacked and settled there and farmed there as a livelihood. We need money, for example, to relocate them to where you can settle them. So you need land to buy other places and take those people there. You need to destroy some of the things they have put there, their houses, their what, destroy the wetlands. And then, of course, allow people to come and actually and regenerate. Perhaps it may require bringing species, for example, bamboo, where you have degraded papyrus, you can plant bamboo, so that, or some swamps, so that actually that are friendly, that actually can do that work of filtering and keeping the water there to change the entire ecosystem. So we need money for restoring river systems that have been destroyed, lake systems or swamps around lakes that have been destroyed. We need money to clean the water, that actually to build systems that now people, factories are not just sending their waste into the lake. We need money to help acquire new technologies that are friendly, new and green technologies that are environmentally friendly. They will need resources to try to actually to shift the entire technology and replace the brown kind of economy with the green economy. That transition will require money.
Okay. Climate enthusiasts seem to focus more on restoring the climate, forgetting that the population is growing and these people need settlement. In the end, people will need to occupy such places. How are we going to balance not putting people away from where they can stay because they do not have where to stay? The population is growing. How are we going to balance to see that we don't affect the climate and also citizens live in harmony with the environment?
You see, it's a host of things that have to be done. One, if you have people that are completely dependent on environment and natural resources, you are a backward country. Because again, ultimately, you may need to transition your people from being natural resource dependent to being to acquire certain skills that they can live on even and lead better lives. So there are several interventions that may come in. One, in the short run, you locate these people, you need to give them where to stay. In the long run, you need to intervene with skilling, with education, so that actually the succeeding generation have skills, they have been educated, that they can actually live on the skills they have acquired through education, not to live on the whole. So this investment we are talking about, climate financing, is not going to be an event, a one-day thing. It's going to be a protracted, sustainable financing for a long time. So when I'm talking about actually changing the whole, for example, acquiring green technologies, most of the industries that we have are polluting the environment. They are releasing their waste material into the rivers, poisoning water streams. Because actually within even this climate change, we are getting people getting cancers, getting dangerous diseases because of drinking bad water, breathing bad and clean air. So that's going to be a whole ecosystem of turning it around. So the interventions would involve not only planting the swamps, but also planting the trees. You know the role of the trees in cleaning up, in absorbing carbon and releasing oxygen, what they call the carbon sink. So tree planting, large scale tree planting, bamboo planting, if that is the whole thing, helping the small and medium enterprises that are using data technologies to acquire clean technologies and that actually don't emit the fumes into the environment to destroy the ozone layer. So they will need support to transition, and that also will need time, but also consistent financing. What about the mindset? Mindset change, sensitization and awareness, creation of our masses to realize that actually when you are getting them from Rubiji, you are just saving them the future. Because sometimes people focus on food for today. What about food for tomorrow? That's why we are in environmental conservation, we talk about sustainable development. Sustainable development means that providing the means of livelihood for today and tomorrow. You are thinking about the current generation and the succeeding generations. But what are people, most of our people focus on now? Let me eat this food, even if it is poisonous, at least I may die in 2 days. No, we are talking about healthy populations. And that will require sustainable investment. So we need to change the budgets. We need to convince the governments, their ministries of finance, to change, to put more money in environment and climate change, and also conscientize their mind that investing in environment and climate change has more benefits in the long run. So it is worth investing in it.
Okay. For now, the government is investing less in climate change. How are we going to manage to mobilize resources for the meantime, to be working with, so that we reverse the impacts?
Actually, under our project, ACCORD is a coordinator. Is a hub. Is a national hub for the Green Economy Coalition. Green Economy Coalition is an international coalition of civil society, business community, but led by civil society to help countries transition to a green economy that is inclusive, that is sustainable, that conserves the environment. We are also a regional hub for East Africa, so we have our colleagues in Tanzania, in Kenya and Rwanda, but ACCORD is that. So how are we going to do it? Yes, we have that global movement. We are conscientizing policymakers, citizens, and want to understand that private sector to invest. If I can use the case in where we have applied it in around River Rizi. River Rizi is a river that starts from Bugweju in western Uganda and powers its water in the Lake Victoria. It's part of the Nile Basin Initiative. That river passes through Mbarara city. It provides a lifeline for that city. But because of the degradation, it's been drying and dying out. And what we have done is to mobilize government, to work with government, especially Ministry of Water and Environment, Coca-Cola, Nile breweries, and other like-minded groups to try to start businesses that will restore the integrity of that river, being able to remove people from there, sand miners, brick makers, charcoal makers around, and planting actually on the banks of the river. So one part of the river, which is Nyakambu in Bugweju, has been restored, and even the ecosystem has changed. It is still a struggle. But we have to achieve this, while the government may not have enough money. I'm just using that as an example. And it's a pilot. We think if we succeeded there, then we need to focus on all the river systems, restore them, which means it's not an event, it's going to be a process. But the whole approach that we have used to mobilize private sector has resources. It's not the government alone that has resources. Private sector will bring the resources. Civil society will bring the resources. The population will bring their support. Their support, because you see in other areas, they resent. So if they are conscientized and they know that actually you are trying to save them, save a future that will be sustainable, and predictable, and peaceful, and healthy, they will join you. But there is also international capital. There is money that can be matched by international actors. I'm told Rwanda and Ethiopia have been able to create climate funds, climate finance funds, and then has been matched by other donors. So one of the achievements we made is while working with Ministry of Finance has established a unit on climate change. But banks like Uganda Government Bank, whom we work very closely, have also established a green fund, unit in the bank that actually, which is being grown, that can access money, that can provide money financing to green projects. That way they can't, because these people who have like small and medium enterprises may need money. And let me give you an example of the small, medium, green enterprises. Like these people who are in the, like fish farming, it's a green enterprise. People who in the apiary, that's beekeeping, that's a green enterprise. There are people who in the bamboo business. This bamboo is good time. Bamboo can be eaten, but so many products can be produced bamboo. It grows very fast. It's sustainable. It will provide people with building materials and furniture and what have you, and yet remain there. So that's like bamboo growing as an enterprise. It maintains and conserves the environment, but also gives benefit to the people who are involved. People will not be poor. Fish farming. So, in a nutshell, there is money, but we need to be organized and bring together key actors to raise the funding to respond to the need.
So when you look at this running budget, 2024-2025, how do you assess its response to climate change financing?
I think I don't have the figure of head, but it is responsive. It is responsive, and that's why I'm saying we have a unit already in the Ministry of Finance. ACORD is a member of the Budget Transparency Initiative, and because of our membership with the, and BTI, we influence the Ministry of Finance easily. I have discussed this with I've always brought it up in every meeting with the permanent secretary. He will attest to it. I think if you are there at our budget meeting, he will say, I think Arthur is happy because now they are putting money there. If they don't put it, they have delivered it, but they know that it is important. And now the issue is how much do we put it there, but the government has accepted, and that's why the president has issued a directive. When we started the campaign for Ribarizi, the president, we worked with NEMA, worked with the Ministry of Water and Environment, and communities down. The president supported us and issued a presidential directive which stopped sand miners, brick makers in that river, and even the river and charcoal burners across actually the country. The whole thing is covering all the country, but it helped us in the case of Rizi. All that stopped, and they have now, NEMA has provided guidelines on how to sand mine and giving how many, the distance that the miners can go near the river, so that, which is sustainable utilization of mining of the sand around the river. For me, to that extent, it has been a success. We were able to mobilize others and achieve that one. The campaign to raise money is not an easy thing, but I think it's doable. And the good news is that everybody around the world realizes that climate change is real. There is a time when it looked superficial. For others, they laughed at us as if we are mad, environmental activists. But today, they realize that actually we were foresighted. This is for everybody. It is actually, it's a prisoner's dilemma. If we don't cooperate, we all perish in it. Most countries that have made progress economically will have their economies reversed because of the costs of not investing in climate change adaptation and mitigation.
In conclusion, Doctor, what do you recommend the NEMA should do to avoid such incidences of fighting with the masses? Because how come they left these people to settle in these areas after a very long time now they are coming in? What recommendation do you give NEMA? Yes.
I think in NEMA, first of all, NEMA should establish like a research and planning department. They need to be informed. Their interventions need to be informed by evidence, and they can be able to see many years ahead of time. But if they are not informed by research and evidence, so the approach is reactive. Now, when you react, even when you are doing something good, you meet resistance. So I think moving forward, we need better planning at NEMA. We need a research department that is robust to research and find evidence. And the second thing, NEMA needs to be funded adequately. I think they have been underfinanced. They have been underfinanced, and therefore their interventions have been knee-jerk because they lack money. But they need to be adequately financed to meet the challenge. But also NEMA must come up with new innovative strategies of getting everybody on their cause, so that they are not seen as a policeman, so that actually everybody is part of what? Of NEMA. So they need to create awareness, conscientization of the citizens, so that citizens identify with the cause for which NEMA was created. Then the work becomes easier. You have many scouts that are on your side than people who actually oppose you. And of course, the other thing is that government must give NEMA space. Government needs to give NEMA space. The issues of environment should not be politicized. They should not be politicized. They are technical. We allow NEMA to do its job. If we are to do a job with justice and righteousness, and their approach should be that no one is above the law. Their approach should never be selective justice. It should, even if you are a big fish, you should suffer the same consequence as the small fish, because you are not going to destroy the environment where everybody pays for profit. So, but when they have selective justice, then their work can be challenged. So pursue justice and righteousness, and be led by evidence, and get everybody on your side through conscientization, and everything will be fine.
Thank you, Doctor.